Ekurhuleni Mayor Nkosindi Phile Xhakaza on Gauteng's East Rand has announced the suspension of the fixed electricity charge of 126 Rand. The mayor addressed residents earlier today. Now, residents have been protesting over electricity tariff hikes. Disgruntled community members went on the rampage, barricading roads with rocks and burning tyres. In April, Eskom increased electricity tariffs by close to 13%, and municipal customers saw an 11.32% increase starting from July the 1st. Several vehicles, including a minibus taxi, have been damaged during those protests. All right, helping us to unpack this further is the head of energy at the South African Local Government Association, or SALGA, Mr. Nhlanhla Ngidi. Mr. Ngidi, thank you so much for your time. Really do appreciate it. Let's start with what we are currently seeing in Thembisa. I mean, the mayor of Ekurhuleni now announcing the suspension of the fixed electricity charge that was set at 126 Rand following those protests there. What are your observations around these developments, and more specifically, how sustainable or fair is this approach of applying a fixed tariff model?
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Sisonati, and good afternoon to your viewers at home. Thank you for having me, and I'm happy to unpack the issue of the fixed charges. I think the first thing we need to acknowledge is the frustration of the people. We really need to, acknowledge that during these economic times that we're in, everything is basically expensive. That includes electricity as well. So we have to acknowledge the frustration from the citizens. But I think we need to also, make sure that we educate the customer about where these costs come from, and maybe find a way, to phase in the introduction of these costs, because they are quite necessary. I think for the longest time in South Africa, I think we have been, being charged electricity based on just the energy consumption, which is basically what you consume. I think for the longest years, that's what's been happening, and our electricity has been quite cheap. But now things are changing. There is energy transition that is taking place, and municipalities now are forced to make sure that their electricity price sort of includes, or it's factor in the cost of supplying that electricity. I think for the longest time, the customer has not been charged, the cost of supplying the, electricity. They've only been charged, energy consumption. And that's because obviously in the past, our electricity has been cheap, and basically there's been a lot of cross-subsidization that's been taking place. But right now, we can no longer cross-subsidize. We have to move towards having cost-reflective tariff. When I say cost-reflective tariff, I mean tariffs that should indicate how much it costs for a municipality to make sure that your lights are on. And I'm talking about maintenance of everything, maintenance of the lines, maintenance of the cables, the replacement of poles, replacement of anything that is old, to ensure that the electricity that you get in your house is there and is reliable. So the fixed charge is a globally widely known concept, but unfortunately for South Africa, for the longest time, we haven't been charged the fixed charge, and now it's necessary. But we have to understand that customers are poor, customers are not working. We have to find a very phased, approach to introducing the fixed charge. I mean, the issue of Ekurhuleni, of the mayor cancelling the fixed charge. Basically, the mayor still have to go and look for that money somewhere else. And where does that go? It goes to us, the middle class. We're going to have to cross-subsidize that fixed charge. So we cannot continue like that, where there is a level or a segment of the customer that is carrying another segment. So we have to find ways to introduce these costs. They are necessary. They are the industry norms. And you have to reflect how much it costs you to supply a customer. And we haven't been doing that for a while, because electricity has been cheap,
I mean, you've touched on a number of things. And of course, there's that argument that municipalities are just simply passing the burden to struggling households and some businesses for that matter. Or do you think in this case, there's also that point that Eskom's annual bulk electricity hikes, for municipalities, so municipalities cannot solely absorb the cost alone because of those bulk prices that they are seeing, or annual bulk electricity hikes that they are also exposed to?
Yes, I think it's a combination of a lot of factors. Our electricity in the country has been very cheap because we've been using our own coal with our own paid up power, stations from Eskom. And that's why we've managed to keep prices of electricity so low. But now things are transitioning. We are introducing cleaner and more sustainable energy sources, and usually that will come with international investors. And if we have to go that route, we have to make sure that we catch up with the pricing, with the global pricing. And that's unfortunate because it means then we're going to have to jack up the prices. It means also, if you look at South Africa against the world globally in terms of our prices, our electricity prices, we're still very much down there, with the countries that have cheaper electricity. So we have a bit of a dilemma here that we need to to transition into the newer, sustainable and cleaner energy sources, which should attract international investment. And international investment means our cost for electricity should make sense economically for those investors. So it creates a bit of a dilemma for government because you are in an economy with, I think, almost 20 million people not working. But you are at crossroads also with the energy transition that you need to go towards. And you have to move from the coal that we pretty much have for the next 100 years. You have to move from the power stations that were paid up. And those power stations obviously are also getting old and dilapidated. And that's why from time to time you get to have load shedding. So there is, a dilemma that government need to really, really look at carefully in order to transition into these prices that are being introduced for us to be in power with the global community. So it's a catch-22 kind of a situation because everybody needs electricity. Government has promised people electricity, but someone has to pay for electricity. So we have to find ways and approaches to phase in these fixed charges because they are an industry norm, and that norm, that which we have not been using as South Africa because for the longest time we've had cheap electricity. But now we have to move towards the norm and have cost reflective tariffs, which basically must, reflect how much it costs for you to run that business. And that is the unfortunate part.
Yeah, and I'm going to come to the long-term resilience as well as sustainable, position that you also mentioned. But I want to come back to this. I mean, many South Africans feel they're also paying more but getting less in terms of reliable supply. I mean, how does SALGA defend municipalities fixed charging, fixed fees when service interruptions persist? I mean, we're told that there is no load shedding, but when you look around in any given multiple neighborhoods, the interruptions of services is quite staggering.
Yeah, I think, it's a bit of a, crazy situation, if you must, because right now, the customer is basically faced with unreliability. And that's because the grid is falling apart. And one of the reasons why the grid has been falling apart is because there has been no investments to the grid. And the investments to the grid come as a result of charging those fixed charges in order for you to invest back into the infrastructure. And that is why now municipalities are trying to go towards cost reflective tariff, which reflects how much it costs you to run the business, reflects you how much it costs for you to maintain and invest into the infrastructure. So it's understandable that the customer will be very frustrated. And I think as SALGA, since we are in discussions of just energy transition, we have been very, very vocal on the issue of modernizing our grid, because if we want to go towards sustainability, our grid must be modernized, because we might find ourselves in a situation where we have more generation than we can handle, and we have no grid to transport that generation. And that's where the modernization of the grid in municipalities come. And there's a lot of investments and funds that have been earmarked for just energy transition, specifically for modernizing the grids of municipalities. So we are trying to get to that point where the customers really do not have to feel this pain of paying more for electricity, but that which is not available. So we really understand the frustration of the customer on that front.
Yeah, and I mean, we didn't even get to the sustainability front, but Nhlanhla, thank you so much for your time. Really do appreciate it. Nhlanhla Ngidi there from SALGA for us.